Hey everyone, this is the Mana Source, my name is Wedge, and we have some more Theros spoilers for you. New dual lands. No, not those. Those are already in Standard. Do you see a Theros symbol on that? Oh god, that's not even a dual land! Dual lands were spoiled this morning, and wow, they're really good. The 5 that are being printed in Theros are the red-green Temple of Abandon, the blue-black Temple of Deceit, the blue-green Temple of Mystery, the white-black Temple of Silence, and finally the red-white Temple of Triumph. Each of these lands comes into play tapped, and then tap for each of their colors. Seems fair enough, maybe even underwhelming, until you notice every single one of them lets you scry 1. While this may not be ideal in aggressive decks, considering they have to come into play tapped, for mid-range and control decks, this is like heaven. Because scrying wasn't easy enough to come by already, they decided to make sure it was all over the place for standard players. Deck fixing on a land is crazy. Yes, they come into play tapped, but that doesn't matter to decks that are trying to live for the long game. Red-green and red-white will take a little bit of hurt here because they obviously want all of their mana whenever they play it. But for literally any other deck, Scry is so strong of a mechanic that it easily outweighs the fact that these lands come into play tapped. Also, keep in mind that the red-white land may well find a home in a new iteration of blue-white-red flash. We've seen enter the battlefield tapped abilities on lands before, and a decent amount of the time, it doesn't keep them away from standard. Cards like Celestial Colonnade and the Vivid lands from Alara are proof of this. In addition, keep in mind how annoying it is to get lands late game. While this won't be your ideal late game draw, it sure is better than any other dual land. Scrying is relevant 100% of the game, and this helps make these lands not completely dead late. The last thing I will say about these lands is they change the way players are going to look at their opening hands. Think about it. You draw your 7, see you have 1 or 2 mana, you feel kind of shaky about keeping, but one of your duels is a Temple of Triumph, which means you can play it and dig for mana an extra card deep. It's just so good at mana fixing. It completely changes the way constructed and limited players are going to view strength of hands. These lands are amazing. Buy them, open them, just don't underestimate their value, because it's gigantic. The next spoiler we're going to talk about is the Prophet of Kruphix. What's up, Seedborn Muse and Teferi? By combining 2 very powerful abilities in one card, Wizards has essentially created a monster for EDH. Untapping all of your lands and creatures on your opponent's turns is gross. Casting creatures as though they had flash is also gross. EDH will love this card forever. As far as constructed goes, I don't think it will see a ton of play. The abilities are nice, but the durability is pretty low at 2-3 for a huge investment of 5 mana. I don't think this card was created specifically to affect Standard, so I'm not particularly upset at the mana cost. I'm not saying there aren't synergies that could be utilized with this card, it would just be rather difficult because of how clunky the Prophet is. Next we have Arbor Colossus, 2 colorless and 3 green for a 6/6 reach giant. For 3 colorless and 3 green, you can make him a 9/9 that destroys a flying creature on your opponent's side of the board. Pretty standard here. 5 mana for a 6/6 is pretty good, especially with reach. He will be amazing in limited against any deck with flying. Definitely a limited bomb. I would say I doubt I'll see him in Standard, but with Devotion as a thing, maybe, but I doubt it. Searing Spear is back in the form of Lightning Strike. 2 mana, instant speed, 3 damage to target creature or player. Red needed a replacement for the spear that wasn't shock, and boom, they got it. Not to mention, this art is awesome! I know Red players were waiting for their standard playable burn spell, and Lightning Strike looks to take that job. Triton Fortune Hunter is a 3 mana 2/2 merfolk. When you cast a spell that targets him, you draw a card. Limited? Awesome, as per any heroic ability. In Standard, this may actually see play if there are going to be auras that control decks actually want to use. Otherwise, he's a great target in Limited for any spell. Card advantage is card advantage. The last card we're going to talk about today is Reaper of the Wild. Finally, we get to see a Gorgon in action. For 2 colorless, a black and a green, you get a 4/5. Whenever another creature dies, she lets you scry 1. For 1 black, you can give Reaper Death Touch until end of turn. For 1 colorless and a green, it gains Hexproof until end of turn. This card may be overshadowed by all the attention the dual lands are getting, but it shouldn't be. This card is legitimately good. It's a complete bomb in Limited and will just win games. In Standard, if you untap with this in play, you've effectively stalled the board until they can sweep. This card isn't going to get the attention it deserves, I guarantee it. 4 mana in a deck that runs green is almost never a problem, and I don't see why it would be here. Jun looking for some more creatures to play? This Gorgon ruins everyone's day, not to mention the abilities on it are so cheap to use. They are amazing in general, but the fact that they are dirt cheap is nuts. Someone please tell me they are as excited about this card as I am. She is going to be so hard to kill. So hard! That's it for today's spoilers. Which cards are you most excited for? I'm also interested to hear what you think about our Scry Happy Dual lands. Are they amazing? Okay? Shouldn't even be rare? Leave something in the comments. I'd love to have a discussion about them. As always, subscribe below for the latest and most reliable information in Theros spoilers you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.